Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to becoming truly well-informed. We grab articles, research, anything we can find, and break it down into the absolute essential insights.
Yeah.
Today we're going way back, transporting you to an ancient, really pivotal moment in history. A time so impactful, it didn't just shape a culture, it literally defined their calendar. I mean, can you imagine an event so monumental that an entire year gets named after it? We're talking about the Year of the Elephant.
Yeah, and that's not just some, poetic title they came up with later. It was the actual reference point for Arabs back then. People would literally say things like, oh, that happened 10 years before the Year of the Elephant, or about a year after. It wasn't just history, it was the anomaly, burned into their collective memory.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to dive deep into Surah Al-Fil. That's the 105th chapter of the Quran. We're going to pull back the curtain on the thrilling story of that elephant army, sure, but also unpack some surprising linguistic stuff and the deep connections this short chapter has to the Quran's wider message. And you'll see how its ancient wisdom remains, pretty strikingly relevant for you, even now.
Exactly. This isn't just us retelling an old story. Our deep dive pulls from really in-depth analyses by respected scholars, historical accounts too, so you get a full, comprehensive, and hopefully really engaging picture of an event many of us might have heard about, but maybe didn't grasp the full weight of it.
Okay, so to really get why the Year of the Elephant was such a big deal, we need to understand the world it happening. It was volatile. Let's try and paint a picture of the ancient Arabian landscape. Broadly, you're looking at three main chunks. There's Iraq and its surroundings, then Sham, that's like modern-day Syria, the Levant area, and finally Al Jazeera, the Arabian Peninsula itself. And this peninsula back then was a bigger concept geographically, sort of a triangle surrounded by seas, and crucially, it included Yemen.
Hey, and here's something that might surprise you. Yemen, even though it seems a bit separate geographically, was historically the ancient world's economic superpower. Seriously. It controlled these vital trade routes connecting Europe and Asia through its ports. And that wasn't just about money, it meant huge political clout in the region. It really shows how geography can shape destiny.
But then, disaster strikes. Around 450, maybe 451 CE, this massive event happens, the Great Flood. And this wasn't just like a bad flood season. It absolutely devastated Yemen's economy, wiped out its ports, wrecked the trade routes. This collapse creates this huge economic vacuum, totally shifting the power balance in the area. It was like the main highway just vanished overnight.
Exactly right. And that vacuum is what lets Makkah make its move. Around 400 CE, you have this really charismatic leader, Qusay, from Prophet Ibrahim's lineage. He was actually known as Mujamis the Gatherer because he brought all these scattered Arab tribes together and centralized them in Makkah. He basically laid the foundations for a new state, turning dispersed families into a real force.
So Makkah's star is rising, thanks to Qusay getting everyone together.
Right.
And then his grandson, Hashim, born after that big flood, remember, he cleverly jumps into this economic void left by Yemen. He didn't just wait for things to happen. He personally went to Sham, sent his brothers off to places like Iraq, even what was left of Yemen, and started making these crucial trade deals, the Ilawaf. And Makkah had this unique selling point, right? It was already this revered religious center, home of the Kaaba, built by Prophet Ibrahim. That gave it both economic pull and the sacred status, making it a safe, respected hub for trade.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how a religious site becomes an economic engine. And that dynamic, that economic power shift, really sets the stage for everything that follows. Because around the same time, you've got another major influence spreading, Christianity. It had reached places like Ethiopia, Abyssinia, as it was known, and parts of Yemen too. There was even this brief, intense period where Yemen became a Jewish kingdom and they were persecuting Christians. That actually provoked Abyssinia, which was a strong Christian power, to intervene. They invaded Yemen, kicked out the Jewish ruler, and put a Christian Yemeni king on the throne.
Okay, and this is where Abraha steps onto the stage. He was a general in that Abyssinian-backed setup.
Yeah.
But he stages a coup, overthrows the king, and makes himself the new ruler of Yemen, though he still kept his ties, his allegiance with Abyssinia. But Abraham wasn't just content with ruling Yemen, was he? He had this, incredibly bold plan to challenge Makkah head-on.
That's exactly right. I mean, historians point out that while he often used religious language, his real motivation seems pretty clear. Restore Yemen's old trade dominance and basically crush Makkah's growing economic power. He saw the Quraysh, Makkah's leading tribe, as his direct rivals.
And this ambition leads him to this, frankly, audacious project, building Al-Qulays in Sana'a. This wasn't just any church. It was designed to be this incredibly lavish, towering Christian shrine, built with the most expensive stuff imaginable, the explicit goal to outshine the Kaaba and pull all the Arab pilgrims away from Makkah. They said it was so tall, if you looked up to see the top, your hat would fall off. His political and economic goals were barely hidden, but he wrapped it all up in this religious package. He even wrote to the Negus, the ruler of Abyssinia, saying he planned to divert the Arab pilgrimage.
Well, you can imagine how that went down with the Arab tribes. Outrageous, word spread fast, and in response, some Arabs, showing their defiance, secretly went and desecrated Al-Khalas. There are different accounts. One says an Arab or maybe a few snuck in and defiled it. Another version says they tried to burn it down. Either way, it was a massive insult, a clear rejection of Abraha's new Kaaba.
Abraha.
He completely lost it, took it as a huge personal affront, and right then he swore this vengeful oath. He was going to march on Makkah and tear down the Kaaba. So he gathers this truly massive army. Numbers vary in the sources, somewhere between maybe 12,000 and 60,000 soldiers. But the real shocker for the Arabs, the terrifying part, was the elephants. 9, maybe 13 of them, led by this enormous one called Mahmud, seeing elephants as war machines. That was completely unheard of in Arabia. Just a massive show of force meant to intimidate everyone. And as this huge army marched towards Makkah, yeah, some Arab tribes did try to resist, people like Dunafar, Nufal bin Habib, but they were just swept aside. Easily defeated shows you the power difference. Nufail was actually captured and then forced to be their guide.
But then you get this interesting contrast with the people of Taif. They had their own important shrine, the Stone of Al-Olat. So out of fear for their own holy place, they basically rolled out the red carpet for Abraha, gave him supplies, offered help, and even provided a guide to this guy named Abu Rial. Now, poor Abu Rial, he actually dies on the way to Makkah, and his grave became this place where Arabs would stop just to curse it and throw stones. Talk about infamy. A real lesson in choosing your alliances carefully, I guess. His grave literally became a target.
Eventually, Abraha and his forces set up camp at Al-Muqammas, right on the outskirts of Makkah. And there, they started seizing local property, including, significantly, 200 camels that belonged to Abdul Muttalib, who was Abdul Muttalib, the highly respected grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad. And this theft leads directly to this incredibly tense and kind of unexpected face-to-face meeting.
Right, this is where the story gets really dramatic. Abraha sends a message to the Quraysh in Makkah, basically says, look, I'm just here to destroy the Kaaba, stay out of my way and I won't harm you. He was practically daring them.
But what happens next is amazing. Abdul Muttalib goes out to meet Abraha. And Abraha, despite being this powerful warlord, is apparently really impressed by Abdul Muttalib, his presence, his wisdom. He actually showed him deference, supposedly got off his throne and sat on the ground with him, quite a gesture.
And then Abdul Muttalib makes his move. But it's totally not what Abraha expects. He doesn't plead for the Kaaba. He simply asks for his 200 camels back. That's it. And Abraha's like annoyed. He says something like, I thought you were this great leader and you're worried about your camels when I'm about to destroy your holy house. What do you think that request really signaled about Abdul Muttalib's faith, maybe?
Oh, it was a masterstroke of faith, really. A profound display of trust. Abdul Muttalib gives this legendary reply, calm and confident. Look, I am the owner of the camels. As for the Kaaba, it has a Lord who will protect it. Boom. It just lands there. It tells Abraha volumes. Your power is earthly, temporary. You're messing with something far beyond your control. It showed complete reliance on God.
But Abraha, totally wrapped up in his own arrogance, just dismisses it. He basically boasts, neither you nor your Allah can stop me now. He was utterly convinced his army, his elephants, made him invincible.
So negotiations clearly failed. Abdul Muttalib goes back to Makkah. He tells the people, look, head for the mountains, seek refuge. A smart move to avoid a massacre. And then he himself goes to the Kaaba. He holds onto its ring, its covering, and offers this incredibly moving prayer, basically a poem, asking Allah directly to protect his own house against Abraha, against the people of the crucifix, as he put it, and their destructive plans.
And then comes this truly bizarre, almost mystical moment. Abraha orders the advance. His lead elephant, Mahmud, gets to the edge of Makkah, this place called the Muhasir Valley, and it stops, just stops, refuses to go towards the Kaaba. They could turn it any other way back toward Yemen, left, right, fine, but towards the Kaaba, nothing. They beat it, urged it, probably poked it with spears, but the elephant would not budge. It knelt down. It was this clear, weird sign that something was deeply wrong, a foreshadowing of what was coming.
And then the miracle happens. Suddenly the sky fills with birds. Tyran ababil, the Quran calls them. Now, it's crucial to understand, ababil isn't like, a species like sparrows or swallows. It means flocks upon flocks, groups after groups, coming in waves from everywhere, apparently even from the direction of the sea. Just imagine the sky darkening with them.
Yeah, and what they were carrying. Chillingly precise. Each bird, the accounts say, held 3 tiny stones, like baked clay, sigil, 1 in its beak, 2 in its claws.
Yeah.
These weren't just like random pebbles falling, were they? This was clearly something else.
Oh, absolutely not random. The impact was devastating, showing Allah's power in, well, the most unexpected way, using the smallest things. These tiny stones hit Abraha's soldiers, and apparently they just pierced right through them, causing their bodies to disintegrate. The description used is graphic, like chewed up dry leaves or like fodder that animals have eaten and trampled. That huge, terrifying army, elephants and all, completely wiped out by pebbles dropped by birds. It's like, yeah, using a grain of sand to destroy a mountain. Utter annihilation.
So the army's destroyed. But what about Abraha himself? Did he die right there?
No, he actually managed to escape the immediate chaos, wounded. But his escape just led to a slower, more gruesome end. As he was retreating back towards Yemen, his body literally started falling apart, limb by limb, pieces of flesh dropping off, until finally, back in Sana'a, his chest split open and he died. It became this horrifying, very public spectacle, a visible warning, you could say, to anyone else who might even think about attacking the Kaaba. His own people saw it and it terrified them. And this event, this unbelievable event around 571 CE, it just echoed through history. It became the reference point for the Arab calendar. Everyone knew the year of the elephant. But here's the really profound part. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born just about 50 to 55 days after this miracle. So it wasn't just some random amazing thing that happened. It's seen as this clear, dramatic sign from Allah, paving the way, preparing Arabia for his final prophet, a grand opening act, if you will.
That context for the prophet's birth is just incredible. Okay, let's shift gears a bit and do that linguistic deep dive into Surah Al-Fil itself. Because the Quran's wording is always so precise, right? And it unlocks so much more meaning. It starts, Alam Tara, which means, did you not see? Now, that's a rhetorical question. It's addressed to the prophet, who obviously wasn't alive yet to see it, or even to us reading it now. So it doesn't mean literal seeing. It's more like, have you not considered, or don't you know? It's tapping into this shared knowledge, this huge, well-known historical event everyone was aware of. It's meant to make you reflect.
Exactly. And notice it asks how Allah dealt with them. Kaifa fa'ala rabbuka. Not just what he did, but how. Asking how makes you focus on the incredible method, the miraculous nature of it, the birds, the stones. It emphasizes the sheer unexpected power and wisdom behind the event. It wasn't just destruction, it was destruction in a way that defied all human expectation and military logic.
And the phrasing, Rabbuka, your master, instead of just saying Allah, that's significant too, isn't it?
Very much so. Allah is the all-encompassing name. But Rab emphasizes the aspect of being a master, a sustainer, a protector, someone who has a special concern for those under his care. By saying your master to the prophet, it's like Allah is saying the same master who protected his house then is your master and will protect you now. It establishes this personal connection, this guarantee of divine support for his messenger. Then you have the term Ashab al-Fil, usually translated people of the elephant or companions of the elephant. But there's a subtle layer here. Some scholars point out that Ashab can imply a shared characteristic, so it's almost suggesting they had an elephant-like quality themselves, meaning perhaps implying they were acting with brute force, lacking intellect or moral guidance, maybe even suggesting they were spiritually lower than the animals they brought. And the irony is, the lead elephant, Mahmud, actually did show more sense by refusing to attack the Kaaba, while the humans pushed forward in their arrogance. It's a really sharp critique packed into just 2 words.
Wow, that's a powerful reading. And the last part, Alam yaj'al kaydahun fi tadle. Didn't he make their plot into utter waste? Let's break that down. The word ja'ala, he made or he transformed. It suggests Allah didn't just stop the plan, he let it develop. Let Abraha gather his army, spend his wealth, march all the way there. And then at the climax, he completely nullified it, transformed all that effort, all that plotting into absolutely nothing. Tadlil, utter loss, confusion, waste, made it a public failure for everyone to see.
And that word plotcade is important too. It often implies a hidden, deceptive scheme, not just an open attack, which fits perfectly with Abraha's situation, right? His public reason was religious, build a church, challenge the Ka'a, but the underlying plot, the cade, was economic and political. Divert trade, crush Makkah, restore Yemen's power. So Allah didn't just stop the army, he exposed and nullified the hidden scheme behind it all. There's even maybe a subtle parallel drawn to the Quraysh themselves, whose own reasons for keeping idols might have had hidden economic motives too.
Okay, listening to all this, the incredible protection of the Kaaba, it does bring up a question I know people often ask, why? Why did Allah intervene so dramatically to stop Abraha, this external enemy, from destroying the Kaaba? Yet, for centuries, he allowed the Quraysh, the supposed caretakers, to fill that same Kaaba with idols. I mean, surely idolatry is a massive offense. It seems like a contradiction.
That's a really crucial question, and scholars have definitely thought deeply about it. The key distinction they draw is about whose right is being violated. Abraha's attack was seen as a violation of a right belonging to all of humanity. The Kaaba was established by Ibrahim as a universal center for guidance, for monotheism, a place of refuge and mercy. Destroying it would harm everyone, depriving humanity of that focal point. It was an attack on God's plan for human guidance. The idolatry of the Quraysh, however reprehensible, was primarily a violation of Allah's exclusive right to be worshipped alone. It was a direct offense against God himself. And a consistent pattern we see is that Allah, in his infinite patience and mercy, often grants respite, delays punishment for violations against his own rights. He gives people time to repent, to change. But when the fundamental rights of his creation or the structures he established for their guidance are under direct, imminent threat, his intervention can be swift and decisive. He protects the rights of humanity even before punishing the wrongs committed directly against him. It's about his priorities and wisdom.
That makes a lot of sense, seeing it through the lens of whose right was being violated. Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening today? This whole deep dive into the Year of the Elephant, it really hammers home one core message. Allah's power to protect his house and ultimately his purpose in the world is absolute. It doesn't depend on the perfection of the people involved. I mean, think about it. Allah intervened to help a society that, frankly, was deep in polytheism at the time. Why? Because they still held on to some remnant of respect, some connection to his sacred house built by Abraham. So if he extended that level of protection and help to them, based on just that glimmer of reverence, well, what does that imply for your potential, for your role in honoring and upholding his complete message today? If he helped those with so little, imagine the support and protection available to those who sincerely strive to live by the whole guidance he sent. It's definitely something to reflect on. How can you embody that kind of trust and commitment in your own life? A powerful thought to end on.